Coming up,
a group of Stony Brook journalism students went out of the country and their comfort zones.
The university is way over its snow removal budget. How does it plan to keep the streets clear for the rest of the semester?
And the death of a civil rights figure and former Stony Brook professor nearly went unnoticed by the university.
All that and more on Stony Brook News.
Good morning and welcome back to school. This is the spring semester's first Stony Brook News broadcast. I'm Giselle Barkley.
And I'm Jacqueline Latanza. We had 2 snow days last week, and we could have had one today. Let's go to Lindsay Welling to see what the rest of our week looks like.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Well, we lucked out this morning. We only got a light dusting of snow, and we're going to see the sun today. We're going to have a high of only 28, so it's still going to be cold. And if we take a look at our 7-day forecast, tomorrow we're going to see the sun again and a high of 25. Wednesday with some more clouds with a high of 29. And Thursday is the day you're going to need to look out for. We're going to see some snow, maybe some rain, and we'll keep the clouds and cold weather for the weekend. So keep out your mittens, Stony Brook. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Lindsay. With more than 2 feet of snow this year, Stony Brook spent over $1 million on removal, but the annual budget is only a fraction of that. Priscilla Korb has the story.
President Samuel Stanley gave students a pleasant present last Monday and Wednesday when he canceled classes. However, coming back to campus, students gave back a very slippery thank you note about ice.
But there's some places, especially near some of the resident halls, where they missed, it's just solid ice straight from my door for 100 feet.
It's slippery and I could die, and all the money that I pay, they should probably take care of it so I don't die. Just saying.
Cleanup after a winter storm on a 1,300 square acre campus is not easy or cheap.
Several hundred people that are involved in the process. Although Stony Brook does have our own snow removal resources, plows and things, salt spreaders, we do contract the bulk of the work out for the bigger equipment.
Stony Brook spent about $1.6 million clearing snow last year. The university spent about that much already this year, but the annual budget allotment is only $75,000. President Stanley says costs won't interfere with making the campus safe.
We will clear the snow. Budget be darned.
Some spots, like over here in front of the SAC, still need some work. But President Stanley claims that overall the university is doing a good job.
Now, I know sometimes people have felt that some parts of campus don't get cleared as much as others, and I think we'll work on that.
The caution tape in front of the SAC side entrance is to keep people out of range of the falling snow and icicles, according to a building employee who asked to remain anonymous. Several students say they agree with Stanley that the snow removal crew is doing all right.
They get paid to work around the hour to make sure that it's safe for us to go to class. I think they did a pretty good job.
No, honestly, they did a pretty good job. Most of the major pathways are pretty clean.
For Stony Brook News, I'm Priscilla Korb.
Speaking of saving money, the President of the United States announced in his State of the Union address a new way for Americans to start saving for retirement. Soraya Frina has the story.
At the State of the Union, President Obama introduced a new program designed to help people start saving for retirement. It's called MyRA.
MyRA guarantees a decent return with no risk of losing what you put in.
It's a novel way to save for those who don't have a good benefit plan on their job. A MyRA takes an initial investment as small as $25.
The advantage of this is it provides for the first time for some small group of low-income people a way to save for their retirement.
However, for some college students and graduates, there are higher priorities than saving for retirement.
Either job finding or college loans would be the most difficult part.
Definitely as a college graduate, loans are on my mind. They're definitely at the forefront.
Not all students have loans, and some older people around campus think it is a good starting point for the younger generation.
If I were 25 years old, beginning my first job, I would definitely get involved in that, yes.
Once a MyRA reaches $15,000, it will be rolled over into a private retirement account. At a place like Stony Brook, it may not be that important.
Most Stony Brook graduates are sophisticated enough to set up their own IRAs.
But when asked, university students were at a loss.
I do not know how to set up an IRA.
No, I don't know what IRA is.
The president says the plan will launch by the end of 2014, just when some of us will graduate and start to pay off our loans. For Stony Brook News, I'm Soraya Afrina.
Now, Dalia Ibrahim, a Stony Brook news reporter who went to Istanbul for the winter's Journalism Without Walls, joins us.
Hi guys. 8 Stony Brook students spent part of the break reporting abroad. Here's what some of us had to say.
Istanbul is unique because it literally is like an intersection between, Europe and the Middle East. It's hard almost to explain. It's almost like one of those things that you have to tell people. You have to go to Istanbul yourself to experience that.
I was hoping that they would gain confidence, that they would realize that if they could report in a foreign culture, a foreign country where people don't speak the language, that if they can report there, they can report here.
Istanbul is basically where East meets West, and, people who are more accustomed to Eastern traditions are trying to keep those traditions, but Istanbul is really pushing to Westernize, so there's kind of that little conflict there.
An exciting part was definitely the protest. Exciting, a little scary.
The people at this protest, they said, we don't want internet censorship, and also we don't like the government. And they were tear gassed.
There were thousands of people, and we kind of were just waiting to see what was going on, but then people started rushing after they were talking about the government and talking about internet censorship. So the police had to take it over, and people started running, and it just got chaotic. So we ran one way, and then we kind of lost some people, and I think we were just trying to figure out where we were, what we were doing, and how to get safe, I guess. I felt like such a journalist. After we got to safety, I asked our translator if we could go back, and he was just like, no, it's too dangerous. But I knew I wanted to cover it. I knew I wanted to see what was actually happening.
This is where it gets a little bit tricky teaching journalism, because obviously my first concern is the safety and well-being of my students. I was glad to hear that everyone was able to evacuate the area quickly and safely and came back home while still having felt a little bit of the excitement of what it means to be a foreign correspondent.
Turkey currently reigns as the world's top jailer of journalists.
Wow, really?
Yeah, you should have seen them out there covering those street protests. All the reporters had to wear gas masks and helmets.
Well, we're glad you got back safely. Stony Brook lost a civil rights figure over the break. Did you know that the writer of The Dutchman, Blues People in Negro America, and Black Art taught Africana Studies here? Poet and playwright Amiri Baraka died January 9th after spending a month in an intensive care unit. Robinson Rodriguez took a look into his life.
Amiri Baraka, a firebrand in New York's literary scene, and the Black Power movement, died over the winter break. The former Stony Brook professor was 79.
Baraka was a true grassroots activist and a political force.
Baraka, born Everett Leroy Jones, first gained fame as a beat poet and philosopher whose work was often seen as contentious and controversial. He joined Stony Brook's Africana Studies Department in 1979.
What Amiri represented was this tremendously powerful and articulate voice for freedom and for liberation and for dignity for African Americans and then for all working people.
We are the blues, the past, the gone, the energy.
He moved around a bit, but came back to Stony Brook and retired in 1994.
He was a very good role model for the students in AFS, which has always been a kind of neglected program on campus.
Critics accused Baraka of being misogynistic, anti-Semitic, and violent, but those who spent time with him saw beyond the vitriol.
This is not just somebody who was, a loudmouth or somebody who was a radical or somebody who was, strange in somewhere. This is Amiri Baraka, who was one of the great cultural figures of the 20th century.
That legacy has persisted on the Stony Brook campus 20 years after his retirement.
The fact that I've had the opportunity to end up at a place where he taught, it's a major honor.
The university did not acknowledge the death of Amiri Baraka until one day after Stony Brook News requested comment. In fact, according to Media Relations Coordinator Lauren Shepro, President Samuel Stanley didn't know of him until the coverage of his passing. Whether you knew him or not, according to one professor, Baraka was that rare individual who always made you think. For Stony Brook News, I'm Robinson Rodriguez.
Let's take a look at sports. For that, we're joined now by sports anchor Rolene Joseph.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Stony Brook basketball has some ups and downs over the weekend, too. The men lost on Saturday, but yesterday the women's team got payback. Here's a look at the games. It was a neck-and-neck thriller most of the afternoon at Pritchard Gym on Saturday, when the Stony Brook men's basketball team fell 73-69 against the University of New Hampshire Wildcats.
It's tough when, they're hitting from all over the court. We tried our best, but they were just hot today.
Sophomore guard Carson Purifoy scored 18 points in the Seawolves' second home loss of the season. He went 3 for 3 behind the three-point line.
We've usually locked teams up with our defense, and today they made a lot of plays in the game. So I told our guys, when you deserve to win, you win.
The Seawolves' loss snapped their 23-game home conference winning streak. They'll face the University of Massachusetts, Lowell, on Saturday. The Lady Seawolves had better luck yesterday, scoring 30 points in the first half, also against New Hampshire on the way to a 76-63 win.
Our coach just stressed defense all this week, basically getting over fade screens, keeping our hands high, and containing their shooters, and I think we did a great job of that the first and second half.
Coach Beth O'Boyle said the team's full court press has been something that they've been working on all year, and the offense ignited in the last few games.
So I thought we had great intensity on defense. I think that really helped us be able to execute on the offensive side, because we were able to create more opportunities because we were playing such good defense.
For Stony Brook News, I'm Rolene Joseph.
Thanks, Rolene. 3 high school students mentored by Stony Brook professors made it into the finals of the Intel Science Talent Search. The competition is for research-minded high school seniors, and the top spot wins $100,000. Here's Jessica Suarez.
Aaron Carrara grew up in a lab, and with a professor for a mom and a house full of science buffs, it only seems natural. This high school senior is the 3rd child in his family to excel in the Intel Science Talent Search.
Don't ever expect to see another Aaron. I was trying to think. I have met somebody who was brighter than he. When I was 4, I met Albert Einstein.
As one of the 3 Stony Brook faculty members who mentored a high school senior on a specific research topic that got them a spot as a finalist, Professor Lindsley inspired Aaron as he researched the formation of the surface of the moon.
It's really interesting how much you can learn from a person just listening to them and working with them. And I think that working with Don is one of the most influential experiences I've had so far.
Aaron had the opportunity to work with Professor Lindsley, who has also worked with Aaron's mother at the university for the past 25 years. But not every student has had the advantage of knowing their mentor since birth. He and the other students work with their mentors on their research project for 8 weeks in the lab.
When they come to the lab, I simply work with them, but they do the job and I observe.
Dr. Geber Hewitt has been mentoring high school students for 22 years. He is introduced to many of these students through the Simon Summer High School Research Program, where they have a chance to work in the lab.
If they don't get the opportunity that they need to thrive, and if you don't allow them to come to the lab, then you are not going to produce young scientists.
The 3 finalists, mentored by Stony Brook faculty, will head down to Washington, D.C. in March to compete for a $100,000 grand prize. They will also work with finalists from 33 schools in 14 states on a range of topics including biochemistry, physics, and space science. If one of these candidates takes home the grand prize, it won't be the first or a surprise. In 2012, Nathan Toomer took home the grand prize in this competition after being mentored by Dr. Geber Hewitt. For Stony Brook News, I'm Jessica Suarez.
Yesterday marked the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' iconic performance on CBS's Ed Sullivan Show. The band's American debut drew 73 million viewers, around half as many as this year's Super Bowl. That's it. We hoped you loved our first show.
Speaking of that, I heard all you need is love.
And love is all you need. That reminds me, this Friday is Valentine's Day. For Stony Brook News, I'm Jacqueline Latanza.
And I'm Giselle Barkley. Happy Valentine's Day, Stony Brook.